The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, I thought I'd maybe cut the wee promo bit a wee bit early there. Very good evening to you all. Welcome aboard the Boyce'S bus. It is Boyce'S Monday Club. I hope everyone had a good weekend. I hope it was all misbehaved as always. Thank you for everyone who's joined already. I can see the comments already coming in. A lot of people watching already, which is brilliant to see. Hopefully we'll get as many of your comments involved as always tonight. It's been another eventful weekend, shall we say. And obviously other news today as well with regards to the Conference League. We've got loads to cover. We'll be talking about obviously the result of the weekend. We'll be talking about the impact of, players needing to come in the expense of, the likes of Jota and Kyogo who are missing right now. We're going to be looking at the fans' protests. What's the end game here? We're going to also be talking about the Conference League draw, which is announced today. And then obviously we'll look ahead to Ross County. And then if there's anything else you guys want to talk about, it'll be an open forum, which is the real way a Monday club should be. It's everyone's here to debate what's going on. So without further ado, we will get to it. So yesterday, made to work for that, weren't we? It was a labour of love, I thought, what we've seen. I think right now, when we look at the injury, I don't want to say the word crisis and be over dramatic, but it's verging on that, isn't it? When you're seeing Davy Turnbull look like he was the closest thing we had to a number 9 yesterday. That seemed to be his position at the beginning of the game. Obviously, there's a lot of sort of rotating in that role and a lot of movement and stuff, and that was great to see. But I feel right now we're at a stage where yesterday's 1-0 win should be seen as an achievement as opposed to anything else. I think it's very easy to, expect to be blowing teams away at home. But I think in the current mitigating circumstance we've got, I'm beginning to see December as a month we just sort of maybe have to stumble our way through until we get some reinforcements or until some guys come back from their injury layoffs. Because right now it's so difficult for Ange to be picking the team. You don't want him rushing players back either. You don't want to see players then, furthering their injury like we may have seen with James Forrest. I don't want to, touch wood. That's not too serious again. But there's two sides to bringing folk, back from injury too early. And also, though, of course, there's this importance of 3 points, guys. And that's the thing that's so critical right now is I think we're hanging in there against all odds right now. And kudos to Ange and the boys for being able to do that right now. And like I say, I just think December might now need to be, with the volume of matches we've got, the volume of injuries we've got against that, might just need to be a month that we muddle through. And again, I'll bring up the first comment of the night. It comes from Con Tuck. Very good evening to you, sir. Thank you for watching, my man. And he says, we just went clinical enough. We still created plenty of great chances. Rogic could have had 2 or 3. I think that's absolutely spot on. I think to flip that, though, when you're creating chances without a recognised centre forward on the park, I think that's going to happen. I think that is going to happen, that we're going to have chances that aren't taken. Having said that, I think if you look over the course of this season, there's been many examples, to contradict myself, where we have had recognised forwards playing and we've still not been able to convert them or as many goals as we would like in certain games. So I think right now Andrew's doing the absolute best he can with the tools available to him. It further strengthens the argument that we are going to need reinforcements in January, big style, not on a small scale. I hope it's not just the 3 Japanese players that everyone seems to think are sorted already, judging by some of the reports you see. But definitely, I thought yesterday was tough. A lot of factors obviously involved with that as well. This is an interesting one coming in. It's a different angle on it, but I'm all for that. Celtic follower comes in. Good evening to you, mate. Thanks for watching. He says it was laboured yesterday. Why is Abada not taking on players now? He did it his first few games. There was a directness about Leo Abada that led me to think, if I'm completely honest, he would have been the best option to play up front. But you're absolutely right. When you actually think about the level of directness that Abada's shown of late, it's chalk and cheese for what we were seeing at the start of this season. It does seem like he's a player going through, I'm going to use that word again, crisis, and I don't mean to be over dramatic, but a crisis of confidence. And I think that's all it is, and I'm pretty sure he'll get that back eventually. And I kind of like the fact that Andrew's persevered with him as well, and he's not, giving him too much time to reflect on it, because he's only just turned 20 years old. There's going to be peaks and troughs with someone of that age when you're making them a first-team regular. And I think that perhaps it's a reflection of his lack of form, if you like, right now, that he didn't actually be Angie's go-to guy to play up top through the middle to start with yesterday. So it is very interesting, that one. And then Alf comes in, and I think this is kind of what I'm saying, Alf. 1-0 or 5-0, it's still 3 points or so. And I think that's it, really. I think right now we're in a position, guys, where if we can just get the 3 points on the board right now and then sort of reevaluate everything come January, that would be a really good, as long as we're in touching distance, I think that's an encouraging sign. There's obviously yesterday, the goal for Rogic was a moment of brilliance, brilliantly identified, picked out, I should say, by Turnbull. And then Rogic with an absolutely brilliant finish. Now, for me, we look at Tam Rogic right now, and I think he is a player who's really stepping up in terms of taking responsibility, in terms of becoming a player we are going to need to look to have moments of magic like he did yesterday. I know I'm not saying it was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life, but it was a beautiful curling effort at the top bag that was definitely needed yesterday. It took something slightly out of the ordinary. It was quick thinking at the free kick. Rogic is on the same wavelength, if you like, as Turnbull, and then obviously the finish with a plummet at the top bag. And I just think, like I'm saying in the banner here, he's in some superb form. How important do you think it is right now, without Jota, without Kyogo, that the likes of Tam, amongst others, step up over the next few weeks, because we are going to need them. We're going to need moments like that from the likes of Rogic, but we can't pin it all on him. There's going to be 1 or 2 others that we're going to need these sort of moments from as well. And it was just a real sense of relief yesterday when the final whistle went. I felt that it was very much job done. And as I say, I keep going back to, I think that might be the sort of general consensus for a lot of the matches over the next month. And I certainly kind of hope so. I'm not going to pin too much on the performance aspect this month now, such as the injury list, lack of availability of players and things, lack of recruitment, obviously, in the summer. I think when you put it all together right now, 3 points, just get 3 points, check out, And obviously we did that yesterday again, which is brilliant to see. And again as well, one of the things that's now becoming a really good habit Celtic are in, it was another clean sheet, guys. It was another clean sheet. So I think that was really good as well. I'm just looking at some of the comments coming in. Multitasking, never been my forte. And Philip DeMarco comes in. Yes, Philip, mate, good to have you with us again. And he's saying Abada hasn't the skill set to beat a player. He beats a player with pace and positioning. His goals came from moving into the box from wide. It's called an inside forward. Oh, I mean, I totally understand that. Obviously, we were in a situation there, though, yesterday where needs must, and no matter who it was that we played up top, was going to be a converted striker as opposed to them playing their natural position. Ajeti obviously pulled up midweek. Kayoko were hoping and praying is going to be back sooner than later. That we hope that the hamstring injury is not as bad as we first feared. There are some noises I'm seeing from other podcasters that maybe know a wee bit more than I do in these situations that Kyogo's injury may well not be as bad as we first feared. And then, of course, you've got the interesting case or tale is now becoming of Giacomakis, who no one seems to know how long it would take him to get match fit initially, which seems strange because, I think we were told he'd actually done a full pre-season in Holland, and then it seemed to take him an age to get match fit, and then he's got involved in the team, a couple of decent showings, a couple of poorer ones, and now he's had an injury setback as well. So whoever we played yesterday up top was always going to be a square peg in a round hole, if you like. And I just think we'd seen enough from Abada earlier this season to have thought if the situation arose between now and January, he would have been a more natural player to put up top. But such as his form, maybe lack of confidence right now, lack of ability to beat a player, as Philip DeMarco's highlighting there, that perhaps that's why he's not played up top yesterday. But at the end of the day, guys, we got the job done. And I think that's the most important thing, as I keep going back to. Ronnie comes in with a wee bit of left field patter, and I love all this. Can't wait for Ange to hit a journalist with, I'm not from another planet, mate. I know where Dingwall is, mate. And yeah, you wouldn't surprise you if he says something like that. We're going to come to the fixture ahead with Ross County again. Probably the same rhetoric that I'm giving, though, to be honest with you. And that'll be go up there and get the job done. But we'll come to that in a wee minute. In comes Gary. Gary says it's his only question. Now, Gary, this is about, a tenth of the size of your questions last week, mate. So feel free to bring in as many of these ones as you want. Of course, you're welcome to, mate. Liam Scales, would you play him ahead of Taylor, who's been less than impressive? I felt particularly first half yesterday. Actually, if I'm completely honest, I felt Motherwell with a better side first half. I apologise for saying it, but it's just what I felt. I thought second half Celtic were far more in control. I thought the game actually kind of petered out, which may well have suited us, to be completely honest as well. Liam Scales certainly's got to be knocking on that door now. I'm not convinced that Taylor's display yesterday showed me anything that Liam Scales hasn't shown when he's been involved. If I've been quite encouraged from what I've seen for Liam Scales, and there does seem to be a reluctance to sort of breed him into the side, and I'm not quite sure why that is. I've got theories on Scales and McCarthy that are unfounded, of course, just Boyce'S ramblings as always, but I think I'm not convinced either he or McCarthy were necessarily Ange Postecoglou signings. I know obviously Greg Taylor wasn't an Ange Postecoglou signing, he was already there, but the fact he's been given a new long-term contract would suggest that someone Ange certainly, likes, to say the least. And Scales, there seems to be a reluctance to give him that run in the team that I think when I'm watching him come in, I think he's looked very composed on the ball. I don't know if anyone's seen, he's just won the Irish League, or League of Ireland, I should say, his goal of the season, I think it was, or it was Shamrock Rovers' goal of the season, one of the two. And it was absolutely outstanding. The way he's brought the ball down over his head, then turned and hit it on the volley. It was class. Check it out on YouTube if you haven't seen it. Monty's came in as well, and he's saying he would play Ange before Taylor. I think that's true. And Daniel MC, always in here for some pat. I love it, mate. Good to have you again with us as well, Daniel, mate. Love it, man. Welcome aboard. And we spoke at length on Saturday night's Double Doon show about Mikey Johnson. So I don't want to go on about him too long tonight, but I felt what I watched, I was quite chuffed with what I seen from Mikey Johnson, particularly first half. I felt he was our most likely threat at times. There was a beautiful move that he did at one point where he cut in from the left, flashed a shot just outside the near post, the keeper's near post. But at least he was trying to grab the game by the scruff of the neck. I thought that Johnston was probably his best showing so far of this season, and hopefully with more games he can find a bit of form, because, as I say or touched on earlier, we are going to need it. Connor, this is interesting. He says, if as expected GG is back within the next week, we need him to hit the ground running and reach a performance level he perhaps hasn't necessarily reached yet in his early Celtic career. Now, that is interesting, because at times, as I said, GG, when he came in, I actually thought was very impressive when he came on as a substitute against Ferencváros. I thought his hold-up play was good. I thought he bought Celtic time when we were trying to get out our own half. He then scored when he started the next game. I can't remember the opposition now, but he scored a really nice measured volley, cushioned it really perfectly into the corner of the net. And then he's next out, and he didn't look up to much. So I don't know. I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but the flip side is we're going to need him to just out of a numbers game. So hopefully, Connor, as you say, he can hit the ground running, and fingers crossed they can. It comes Feed the Bear. The other podcast left boys are turning to egotistical and smug. I'm going right off them. Tony Snide comment the day is absolute joke. I've always got on well with Tony, to be honest. I'm not privy to what was said. I've got to admit I don't watch it now. That's my personal choice. I certainly agree with the initial point. I'm not going to say anything bad about Tony. He's been a good pal of mine throughout my time there. We might not speak as much now, but when I was in Axon, he was a good teammate, to be honest, a really good teammate, a good friend. But I certainly feel there was a bit of ego creeping in, to say the least. That's what awards can do to people, I've no idea what the comment was. I don't want to give it too much time, but I'm glad you're watching Feed the Bear, the Boyce'S bus, mate, and you are always welcome aboard, my man. In comes wee Jimmy. What's with the late kickoff time on the old Boyce'S bus? I'm almost off to my kick. Wee Jimmy, I apologise. Here's the plan of action, right? I've realised I do work till 8 o'clock sometimes, even on a Monday, like I was today. I had to commit to doing 8 o'clock and then changing it to 9 one week and then maybe 8 again the next week. Why don't we just do all 3 shows at 9? I appreciate it's later than some people would have ideally, but also there's going to always be the available option to catch up on YouTube, catch up on Spotify, as people are doing in their droves. At present, we're sitting with 688 subscribers. Unbelievable, considering it's only been 7 to 10 days. I think right now we're on the brink of calling ourselves the fastest growing Celtic fan podcast there is right now, to be honest. We've had over 4,500 views on YouTube combined in 7 to 10 days. It's been absolutely way above what I was hoping for, so I appreciate it all the same. Alan's asking how I'm getting on. Very well, Alan. Thanks for watching, as always. John, don't you worry, mate. You've missed nothing. Right. Let's get through some more of these comments. Obviously, I've got a few talking points myself as well. Do we need to get negative? I suppose we better. Officials. Let's talk about the standard of officials. I don't want to make this a recurring theme every week, right? I'm not the biggest conspiracy theorist person. It's just sometimes you've got to call it as it is. Now, for balance, and I want people to understand this, I am not always going to be saying everything's against Celtic and stuff like that, right? It's really not my style. What I will say is the first mistake the referee got yesterday for me was Joe Hart should have been penalised for punching the ball outside the box. I thought it was blatantly obvious that he was outside his area when he's came out his left-hand side of his box and he's punched it clear. He looked, his arm, when he's connected with the ball, is a good yard, I felt, outside the box. And we would be moaning if that was the other way around. So that was the first mistake. After that, he just couldn't get a grip of the game. I think, actually, a guy who gets a lot of bad press from the Celtic fans is Jerry McCulloch, right? And someone needs to explain to me exactly what he's done to rub everyone up the wrong way. And I've got to tell you that I thought he nailed it yesterday. He says, this guy, cannot get control of this match any longer. He did seem to be letting fouls go. Celtic again are going to be looking at it going, I think they finished with 71% of the ball yesterday again. And yet you're looking at how many times play was broken up by naughty wee niggly fouls. Is there an issue? Is there an issue with refereeing in Scotland in general? And what I want to put to you is what would your solution be to resolve it? I'm going to give you mine, and then I'll open it up to the Monday Club, right? So I'm thinking, I know it was an enforced change last time, and it was through circumstances. I'm not advocating that we have to get to again where referees have to go on strike and protest, but I think it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if there is a feasible option and an affordable way of doing it, just to have foreign referees. Nobody is going to say they've got an agenda. And I can't help but feel that with the overseas referees that they're just going to be of a higher standard than what we've currently got. Obviously, the conundrum is right now, referees are handsomely paid for a part-time job. If they were to go full-time, what makes it worth their while? You would need to then double, if not treble, what their actual match fee is right now. And between their full-time job and their part-time job, they may well all feel that they're in a cushy number. But if it's only a part-time job, how can you have a league championship, right? £40 million potentially at stake for the winner, as is more than likely they will qualify for the group stage. Obviously, that might not happen if whatever team wins the Champions League this year doesn't qualify through their league for the Champions League, then the SPFL will lose their spot. But very unlikely scenario, as usually it's just one of the big six now, isn't it? But I mean, when you're looking, I lost my train of thought then. When you're looking at, potentially a £40 million jackpot, right, for the league title, how can it be something with that much riding on it can only have part-time officials? It doesn't add up. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't, the numbers don't add up. It's far too much at stake for this to be having crucial decisions, any decisions really, being based by guys who do this as a part-time job. Kevin comes in, and I'm all about getting balance. He says there will always be people claiming agendas, though. That ref from Italy is a Tim, and the one for Holland is a Blue Nose. Sometimes it gets that petty, doesn't it, Kevin? And that's the last thing we want. Of course it is. I'm just trying to think of a way that would dampen that as much as possible. And yeah, there may well be, like you say, mate, there may well still be the odd silly claim like that. But I would like to think on the whole, it would, lower the suspicions, say maybe of fans. And if there was a honest mistake, as they're called, we might actually treat it as an honest mistake. Here's then the next bit. And I know we covered a bit of this last Monday, but again, you watched the game yesterday and you feel compelled. See when I'm doing my wee schedule for the show and I'm writing the talking points, I'm loath to bring up referees. But yesterday I'm watching the game and going, am I really doing a Celtic fan show justice if I'm not highlighting how poor the standard of officiating was yet again yesterday, right in front of us? And it can create for a toxic atmosphere. And we're going to get to the atmosphere at the ground, obviously, at some point tonight as well. Bruce comes in. Brilliant to have you with us, Bruce. Raymond, he's saying VAR should be the answer. Unfortunately, I don't think the refs know the rules or how to pay attention, so I don't think they'd be able to make the right call even with VAR. Two sides to it. VAR is an interesting one because it's all about how it's run. Do we go down the Champions League route and get the Mercedes-Benz of VAR in, which is going to come at a hefty cost to the SPFL member clubs? Or do we let the same officials, self-govern their own VAR? I just feel that would be actually a waste of money because it'll still come at an extra expense to all the clubs. But I think the same old debates will all still be there and still all existing because we'll know that the people that are making the call from behind the camera we're going to still associate with all the agendas that get spoke about just now and the same sort of poor standards that we're associating them with just now. And then you get the really simple outlook coming in from Alfred, and he just says referees need to learn the rules of the game. Do you know what? That might sound really simpleton, but is there an argument for that? I think there might be, Alfred. Kieran, he seems to know a bit about this. VAR is 8 cameras, 80 grand, and a membership to the lodge. I only read the first wee bit. I thought this was going to be an insightful point about how VAR is structured and all that. And then, caveated with a membership to the lodge. Graham Bell seems to be on board. And I don't mean all aboard, on board with what we're talking about right now. And Graham's saying, Boyce, the standard of referees is atrocious. The problem in Scotland is it will never be rectified until VAR is introduced. Somehow we need to find the money. And that's what I'm getting at. Yes, we need to find the money, but it has to be, for me, for the top version we can possibly get, not one that's going to be run by the same incumbents right now that are in charge of our officiating in the country, because I just don't feel that is doing us. I don't just mean Celtic. I just don't think it's doing the sport any favours at all right now. And it is a shame that we have to keep talking about them. But so be it. I noticed that Alex has came in a wee bit late as well. He's saying he's just arrived. All good, mate. All good. The bus will come back and pick you up at any time, mate. Monty's got another opinion on it. And I'm not saying I completely subscribe to what Monty's saying here. They are cheating Celtic at every turn, Russ. Like I always say, for balance, Joe Hart comes flying out yesterday after 2 minutes. He's punched the ball for me outside his box, Monty. I thought it was blatantly obvious, and I don't think the ref fancied making that decision. However, I also am very respectful for the fact that a lot of people share the same view that you do, Monty. And that's all good, and that's what the Monday Club's all about. We're going to get angles, completely different angles, all thrown into the pot, and I'm more than happy to debate any. So give me some substance to that, Monty, if you don't mind. What is it that they're cheating? What is their agenda here? Are they cheating because they're trying to benefit Rangers? Are they cheating because they're anti-Celtic? Are they cheating because there's some sort of incentive for them out with that? I don't know, but I'm more than happy to discuss your feelings on that as well. We have to believe that full-time refs and VAR is the way forward. The clubs have to stump up. The money comes out, the prize money. I think that's a great argument. But as I say, for refs to go full-time, it would have been so much easier before they incentivised the part-time role as much as what they have. It's my understanding refs get paid, I think it's between 900 to £1,000 a match. You're getting that on top of your full-time job. It's one heck of a wager you're going to need to be offering these guys to go, we want you to come over full-time. So, yes, we have to find the money. I get that, but it may well be that the amount we need to find for full-time refs is a lot higher than what it needed to have been if we'd addressed this 20 years ago. See, to think, we had, Henrik Larsson playing in the country, right? We had, across the city, guys kept signing for Barcelona. We had Roy Keane playing here at one point. Don't get me started on Keano. To think they were playing in a league, we were lucky to have them, and they were playing under part-time refs. It all just seems a bit mad, doesn't it? In comes Matt Kelly. We need impartial peeps to monitor VAR in Scotland, though. And this is what I'm saying. This then comes with a more expensive version of the VAR, Martin. And that's what I think could be a problem. So Monty's going to come back in with his theory. And as I say, I'm more than happy to discuss whether I initially agree with it. I'm happy to bring it up, Monty. If you've got an angle and you can back it up, I'm all for it, mate. Russell, he says, well, he'll use a term that I'm not going to say in the pod because I can't be arsed with the fallback on Twitter, But they need CL money. It's all in the plan. The refs are helping them. In 7 games Europe, they had 4 sent off domestically, 0 sent off in 2 years. That is a damning stat. That is a damning stat. Now, obviously, the initial argument is going to be, from a footballing perspective, Rangers are in possession of the ball tenfold what they are when they're playing in Europe, and therefore they're creating more challenges. They're going to commit to more fouls, and therefore red cards are more than likely. However, 0 red cards in 2 years in any league does seem a bit off. To flip it, did I read somewhere there's not been a red card at Celtic Park in 2 years as well? I think I may well have done. So that is interesting. Bruce comes in with another simplistic view, and this is why I love you guys. This is what we're talking about. Whatever your job is in life, just do your fucking job. you wouldn't catch me turning up, not knowing the rules, not paying attention, and not giving a fuck. And I think that applies to anyone in any profession. Daniel's saying it doesn't make sense to make it into a conspiracy. Why did they not cheat us during the 9 in a row? Now there's the other side to the argument. There's the other side to the argument. We'll leave it there. But I enjoyed the debate about that. And again, as I say, healthy debate. I'm all for from both sides of the coin. We'll try and balance it up. I don't want to repeat myself for all that generic crap anyway. Right, now, obviously, we've seen what happened on the field. We got a mucky 1-0 win. I'm all for it, right? Sometimes you need to grind it out. And we did that against the Cosh at times yesterday, particularly first half, and certainly against the odds when you look at the availability. Albeit, if we got beat, I'd be coming in here going, well, he still had far better players to look for than what the Motherwell manager did. So you can't win sometimes. But off the field, Ange is listening. And he was listening to silence yesterday. Can the board hear the silence as well as Ange can? I thought it was interesting that Postecoglou was happy to field the conversation yesterday. He certainly was of the mindset. Well, what I took from what he was saying was, we really need you guys, and the silence isn't benefiting us. Obviously, we get that. Obviously, there's far more deeper rooted reasons as to why the fact the supporters that are taking part in the silent protest are doing. I'm not going to take anything away from that. I'm not going to take anything away from the right to air their protest in any way they want. Absolutely, I totally get it. I wish there was another way, though. I've got to be honest. I just think the team's decimated now. The league is on the line. We're in a title race, that could go right to the wire. And yesterday, that second half, I felt the atmosphere was almost. It wasn't constructive to us getting the 3 points, albeit we got over the line and it's mission accomplished. But I think a lot more could have been made of it in a negative light had we not done so and got the win. So for me, there is a bit of an issue there that this needs addressed now, right? Now, there's two sides to it. From the fans' point of view, this is a toxic appointment that's been rumoured right now, okay? From the fans' point of view, this could be nipped in the bud ages ago. As obviously the first protest, the Livingston game, I mean, that seems a lifetime ago, the half-an-hour silence. We've seen the tennis balls in the park. The fans are making it clear how they feel about this potential appointment. They want answers. And until they get an answer, and it's got to be the answer they want as well, the outcome that they want, then we're going to keep seeing examples of this. Now, that, I totally get it. I totally understand it. But silence, I wish there was another way. I wish there was another way. Because it doesn't benefit a team that's in need right now. It really doesn't. So I'm a football guy. And, we've been moaned last year. And I think whilst maybe, it's been played on by some that we lost the league because of COVID and all that last year. The one thing I will say is it had a negative impact on the team not having the fans there. Now we've got this amazing opportunity to fill the ground again. And who knows how long that'll be for, by the way. That's another point. That could all be taken away from us again. Imagine to think that when we have had the opportunity to be there as a full crowd, 60,000 there, that we've not took advantage of that and we actually dropped points, i.e. the Livingston match. And that's played a slight role in it because of the silence. Here's the thing from the board's point of view. What if this is all hearsay? Now, for me, if it was and I was the board, nip it in the bud. Ridicule them going, wrong, miles off it. This was never going to happen. We've no idea where the story, the substance of the story came from. You can put that one to bed. Higgins won't be appointed. We all would go, all right, okay, well, wherever that came from, fair enough. Maybe that wasn't the case. So the fact that they've not said anything leads you to believe it's true. Now, the board may well feel they don't need to pander to any section of the support. And I don't like this being a GB versus the board thing, Green Brigade versus the board, because there's more than one fan group involved in this. In fact, there's numerous. Is it not 250 supporters clubs or something I read have signed against the, in opposition to the potential appointment of this guy. So it's quite a universal held opinion from the supporters. And right now, I think the board should be if you like, the bigger men and go, whilst they don't want to pander to every, because they might feel if they pander to this, right? I think the board might feel then there'll be a protest about something else in 2 weeks. And before you know it, the way they'll see it is the tail's wagging the dog, right? But I also think when it's anything that comes to the stage where it's remotely impacting the team, the board have a obligation on them to nip that in the bud and get a resolution sorted. Come out, either say every reason under the sun why you are going ahead with this appointment. We might not like it. In fact, people will be extremely opposed to it. It might lead to more, but at least there'll be a wee bit of transparency. Or secondly, do the simple thing and just say it's been, cowboshed, whatever the phrase is, and it's no longer happening. I'm going to bring in some of the comments because they are flying in thick and fast. I know this is a touchy subject, all right? I do appreciate it. I want as many different contributors coming in as well. Kieran comes in. He says, regarding the silent protest, Juranovic also said, should we sit on the pitch and drink coffee? I took it as in support, not sarky. Not quite sure what to make of that. I would need to hear the context of it, if I'm honest, Kieran, but it's interesting now. Players even engaging in the debate about this, is usually they would kind of keep out of that sort of debate. You know what I mean? In comes Conor McCann as well. He says Michael Nicholson's lost any credibility straight off the bat as temporary CEO. The most basic communication required from the club, and we're not respected enough by these guys to get it. Conor, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, when Michael Nicholson was promoted from the board, you suddenly had a position before, I can never pronounce his surname, the sports scientist we've employed. But until he arrived, you were actually looking at a situation, once Don Mackay left and Nicholson was promoted to this temporary CEO role, only one guy had changed to Celtic, and that was Ange Postecoglou coming in since February. I mean, it was madness. So I find that very bizarre, because you're looking at Nicholson and going, well, it's the same as it ever was, as Talking Heads sang, same as it ever was, same as it ever was. Do you really expect much difference from the board when they're promoting from within to such prominent roles? In fact, it's probably the exact radio silence we should come to expect from people that have been on the board in the last few years. Now, on top of that, you've then got a situation where I was reading tweets yesterday saying Ange shouldn't really be commenting on it, he should stick to the football, etc. But when this creeps in and potentially influences the football, and the one guy that's unified the Celtic fans is Postecoglou, then I think he's got every right to make any comment on anything Celtic related as far as I'm concerned. A couple more of the comments coming in, and there comes Philip DeMarco again. He says, this stems from the AGM. They could have addressed it then. This is rumbling on because the new CEO, Nicholson, is being played like a puppet via the board, or he's just part of the machine, Philip, And StewTube comes in. Love that name, StewTube. That's fantastic. Wee logo as well. Nice avatar. I agree with the protest, but no director of any business with shareholders is going to fold to a group who are trying to hold them to ransom. I get that, and I also think the biggest ONG we've seen was Barry Mackay incident when there's objects getting flung at him. No matter what section of the fan base, by the way, that was. I can't be asked for that, full stop. It's not becoming a Celtic fans. It's not our style. I wouldn't like to have thought. I've been a Celtic sport for too long. Don't want to give my age away, but a long time anyway. And I just don't feel that sort of behaviour is becoming of us. And when there is such a gripe between fans and board, and fans are so desperate right now for their point to be heard, I thought when I seen that incident with Barry Mackay, or multiple incidents, let's be honest, it was more than once, with bottles being thrown and whatever else, you're absolutely shooting yourself in the foot with that. Do you know what I mean? So that was really frustrating with that aspect. And, that's obviously I'm taking that on the back of your comment. They're not going to fold to a group who are trying to hold them to ransom. They're certainly not going to fold to a group or any group of supporters if they're seen to be flinging objects on the pitch. Kevin, the other fans in the ground need to step up if there's protests. The team needed support yesterday, especially when we didn't put the game to bed. This is very interesting now. We all know what the atmosphere's like at Celtic now. It's very much the sing-songs, etc., are orchestrated by the Green Brigade, right? I almost feel there's an awkwardness in the stadium when another section tries to start a song or whatever, and it goes with a whimper. It kind of, maybe the first few lines of the song gets sung, and then it kind of fades out again, and everyone is kind of shuffling, looking at their shoelaces a wee bit. Do you know what I mean? Now, I get what you're saying. They should be stepping up, but maybe a lot of the other areas of the ground are silent because they're actually in support of this. Either way, there has to be an end game, and the end game should be found before the next match at Celtic Park. It is that simple, because you can bet your bottom dollar at Ross County there will be a very vocal support there cheering on the team, potentially to another vital 3 points. You can bet your bottom dollar when we play the Scottish League Cup final at the weekend, there is going to be plenty of noise as we go to win our first trophy since the amazing quadruple treble years. So before the next game at Celtic Park, I would implore Celtic, not because they'll be watching the Boyce'S bus by any stretch of the imagination, but if they ever were, I implore you just to, even if it goes against the grain, make it an exception, make it clear that other protests for other matters, where you won't be jumping, to other people's tune left, right and centre. But with this one, because it's impacting on the team and it's rumbled on long enough, make a statement one way or the other and give us some sort of clarity as to what the fuck is going on. Because this is just not a situation I want to keep going. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, I'm trying to get through as many comments here, doing my silly rants at the same time as well. I've got no idea, Kieran, what happened with the lad lobbing the Lucozade bottle. One thing I can say, though, is what an absolute act of idiocy. And we really don't want to see any more of that this season. Full stop. Whether there's a situation with the board and the supporters or not, and whether it's weakening a hand, strengthening a hand, whatever you want to call it, the one thing I'll say is I don't want to see that at Celtic Park, full stop. We're better than that. You know what I mean? As Chris Sutton would say, you're better than that. Terrible accent, but anyway. In comes Alan Robertson. Good to have you with us, Alan. Some fans are intimidated and feel like they can't cheer. We are stronger together. Back the team in Simeon. I think that is one aspect, definitely. As I said at the top of this debate, I just want us to find another way to do the protest than a silent protest. But I appreciate, there's a lot more to it than that, and there's not maybe as many avenues that they can go down now where they feel they are going to be listened to. They might feel this is a last resort. I just hope they can come up with something else. This is my biggest fear. It comes in from James Moore. James, good to have you on the bus, mate. The protest is now splitting the fans. I know he said fans, but I know what you mean. I think you're right. I think, the debate, I'm trying to be as balanced as I can here, but I think you are right. You've seen it creeping in on Twitter. Well, you sing then if that's the problem. Or, well, you shouldn't be silent, no matter what your problem is. And we really don't need this right now. And Ange's done such a wonderful job since he came in of uniting the fan base, if not maybe me at the start of the season. But anyway, you live and learn. And I'm delighted to see Ange, slowly but surely, is really beginning to win me over. So I am delighted with that. Now, shameless plug time. We do actually have our first sponsor tonight. We are sponsored by giftwell.uk/drinks. So that's something I can relate to. Obviously, we can go to, if we have a look at the site here, all sorts of gift ideas here. You can't go wrong. Big shout out to Giftwell for sponsoring the show tonight. And hopefully, you never know, the first sponsor of many. Who knows? Who knows where this bus is going? It's madness, isn't it? But yeah, so big shout out to them. They've got a sports page as well with loads of vintage kits. I know that might be up some people's street as well, which is pretty cool. So yeah, hopefully Giftwell, have a wee look on their site. Some perfect ideas for Christmas presents and all that. And a big shout out to them for getting in touch and wanting to sponsor us. Alan, I can see you laughing there, mate, in the corner. A drink sponsorship? Never, Boycey. Oh, you know what I mean? Honestly, I think a bottle of beer was, I don't know, a tab of acid or something, according to some folk. You know what I mean? I'm laughing. It was a pre-season game anyway. Monty, the Green Brigade get the stick, but what about the Prawn Sandwich Brigade in front of the director's box? Maybe they should protest. Maybe they've been in protest the whole time, Monty. Maybe that's why they're eating the prawn sandwich. It's been a silent protest going on at Celtic Park that none of us knew about. It's just been going on in front of our eyes the whole time, mate. The whole time. catchphrase for for Give 12's drinks page is don't double down, drink it down. Or if you're drinking it down, double down. You never know, mate. I like a wee double. Anywho, let's get back to some Celtic matters now. Let's look ahead. We've covered the weekend's sort of topics, I think. We've done a good job there. Thanks to everyone watching. 77 watching live right now. Just as well had any panic under the pressure. All right. Ross County away on Wednesday. The games are coming in thick and fast. Despite all the injury concerns, it's just another must-win game. Right now, I think we're in a situation. I think we're in a situation right now where anything, to get the 3 points, I'll take straight away. Straight away I will take, because I'm not interested in the performance midweek. I'm really not. I think the biggest dilemma, and this is the one I want to put to you, is Kyogo. I was talking about, well, as Ange says, Kyogo. He says it totally differently. If his injury isn't as bad as we think, do you save him for the final for a cameo appearance or maybe even a starting role? Or would you have him on the bench in case shit hits the fan against Ross County and we're chasing with X amount of minutes to go? Do you bring him in the squad at all, or do you wrap him up, and just go, look, until you're 100% ready, we can't risk it, because any, longer period of time out is to the detriment of what is a crucial league campaign. Every league campaign is crucial, of course. Great to see Scott Howe involved in the chat. Top lad, Scott. I'm glad you've joined on the bus, mate. Brilliant to have you with us on this Monday evening. Bruce says leave him out. Alan, though, with a different opinion, he says the bench with 25 minutes to the left, get Kyogo on, the league could be done. Well, this is the tricky bit, because whilst January the 2nd, I'll be honest to you, right? I'll be completely honest. I have a feeling come the 2nd of January. And by the way, the mob across the city are in decent form, right? I think they're playing well. I think their appointment's been quite an unspectacular one that's kind of worked for them. But I still feel that come the 2nd of January, I'm actually quite confident we can get a result. I think if we've got the right players back, we could get a result. So here's the conundrum. Kyogo, you risk, and his injury gets worse because you brought him on at Dingwall at minus fucking 25 degrees, and he gets booted up and down the park, and he's out for 4 weeks, and he misses the crucial derby match on the 2nd of January, right? Or you don't involve Kyogo, he's not an option on the bench, and we're 0-0 with Ross County, and it peters out, and we only get a point in Dingwall, and before you know it, the win that we potentially could get on the 2nd of January will only be to get us back to where we are just now, or a point better off or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And it would kind of defeat the purpose. It's a very difficult juggling act, and further emphasises the point that there's just a lack of options right now to deal with the injury headache that Andrew's got. And that's why I've got no expectation for Wednesday in terms of performance. Shelf it. Get the result. No matter what it takes, get the result, because the players are beginning to believe, I think, that they can win ugly now. And I don't think that was there at the start of the season. I actually just think we panicked. If we scored the goal, I thought we panicked at times. If we conceded the goal, the heads definitely went down. Whereas now, we seem to be able to weather the odd storm. Motherwell at the weekend, they hit the bar. The double save for Joe Hart, outstanding. And we seem to be able to react to these situations that we find ourselves in a hell of a lot better now. So that is good. I like the comment. Someone says, well, there'll not be a silent protest. I think it was Sean, and he said there won't be a silent protest in Dingwall because everyone will be too blotto. That seems absolutely fair, Sean. It is a long drive. It is a long drive. Alfred, that's what I'm touching on, mate. I totally agree. We have to keep winning, because right now, whether we like it or not, the other lot are. We looked at Tynecastle as being a potential slip-up for them. It didn't materialise. They were 2-0 up and coasting in the first half, and they've got the ability to see it out. So we're up against definitely a rival for the title. I think we're a far more pleasing on the eye team. That doesn't change the fact winning becomes a very good habit to be in. And while Celtic, I think, have 13 games now unbeaten in the league, which should never be underestimated or undervalued, you can't also help but feel they're going about their business. Whilst maybe not as easy on the eye, they're picking up results, and there's still a 4-point gap that needs addressed. End of story. let's keep it to 4 points come the 2nd of January. Get the business done. Get the job done on the 2nd. Get within a point. Let's see if they can hang. Because I think, there's a lot of players in their side. I think that the bottle could go if we were to be relentless in our quest to pressure and strike that blow in the 2nd when it matters, not having fallen further points behind in December in the lead up to that match, and then the impact of beating them wouldn't be quite the same. I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion, by the way, that we'll win in the 2nd. But I'm going to say quietly confident, but I've just said it about 14 times, so I'm loudly confident that we can get the result. Feed the Bear, he says if he's not 100% fit, keep him fit for the Creamy Buns game. I totally understand what you're saying about Kyogo there. I think it's very difficult, though, when you've got a player who's had such an impact. Imagine not being able to turn to him if the worst was to be happening in Dingwall on Wednesday. Not saying that necessarily will be the case. Bruce comes back and he says, leave him at home for the Ross County game, leave him on the bench for the final and bring him on for an impact. 2 points drop now could prevent 9 dropped when Kyogo's out again for 3 weeks in February. Yes, and whilst I do get that, I would also caveat that with, if Celtic have got the act together, then come February it wouldn't be so costly because the reinforcements are going to bring in January will allow us to be able to handle injuries to the likes of Kyogo a lot better than what we have so far. I keep trying to say Kyogo like Ange. Kyogo. I'll get there with that one. Alan Robertson's back in. I loving all the comments tonight, by the way. Absolutely superb. If Kyogo is out to Scotland, who starts? And what options do we have on the bench? This is it. This is it, right? That's the $1 million question. As I say, no one was more surprised than me when I seen it looked like when we lined up yesterday. It seemed to be David Turnbull who was the furthest forward, and that really did surprise me. Have you noticed, by the way, as well? I've been listening to a lot of other Celtic podcasts, right? The past week or so, getting me tips and watching how they all go about their business. You get sucked in when you're in one. That's the only way, and we know better. We stand alone and all that bullshit. And when you come out it, you kind of open your mind up again to what else is happening in the Celtic pod sphere. So I've been watching a lot of them, and one of the things I've took away from quite a lot of them, David Turnbull. David Turnbull. That's how I call it. Turnbull seems to be the way it's pronounced in a lot of the podcasts. So I don't know if that's just to make him sound a wee bit more menacing. Who knows? Monty is sharing the view I read on Twitter by someone else tonight, who apparently knows what they're talking about, watches a lot of J-League, so they say. I mean, a lot of people have said that, though, let's be honest, since Postecoglou was appointed. And that was similar to what Monty's saying just now. Maeda is better than Kyogo. He's I did it again. He is the joint top scorer. He finished of the J-League. And I find that fascinating. That's proper kudos. I like the look of what I've seen on YouTube. I'm yet to see a player on YouTube that doesn't look good, to be honest. In comes Joseph Agnew as well. But yeah, the Maeda one's very exciting, Monty. And hopefully we're so far down the line with the likes of him, Hatate, Itaguchi, that they're going to be ready to rock from the first and perhaps even included in the squad on the second. You never know. But yeah, interesting that you've said that as well, Monty. Joseph Agnew, hail, Boyce. Hail, you, mate. Nice one for joining. Don't risk him. As one player does not make a team. In saying this, though, Kyogo needs to be told to stop clashing with players whilst chasing the ball. This is how he's getting injured. Hail, and keep the faith. I mean, I think Kyogo, I was saying this, was it Saturday night show, the Double Doon show? Kyogo and Ange are very similar in the sense that they both one only knows how to play one way and one only knows how to manage one way. Sometimes that's an absolute blessing. Sometimes that comes with a couple of downsides. I think we need to be realistic and acknowledge. I think if you take the aspect of Kyogo not chasing down, tracking back, harrying, pressing, I just think he gives so much impetus to the rest of the 11 on the pitch, or the other 10 on the pitch, I should say, that I don't know. I just don't know if you can take it out his game. I just think if you watched Kyogo Light, if you will, Lite, then I just think, I don't know, might be a bit like having a lager tops, you know what I mean? Anyway, who else is coming in? Alan Robertson, he's got serious tactical formations and lineups he wants to talk to us about. ahead of Ross County. He would start Beaton. He'd move Cal Mack up with Rogic. Turnbull to come on in the second half. Abada up top. Johnston left out. Could Ralston play wide right ahead of Juranovic? Ralston came on Sunday and was instantly involved in getting a ball in the box. I don't know if you've noticed that. But I think, can I be honest? I've not been as overawed by Juranovic at right back as what I thought I was going to be. I put a lot of his 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10 displays down to the fact he was playing out of position at left back. Since he's went to right back, I expected to see that performance bar raised quite highly. I've not been blown away by what he's contributed so far. Yeah, he seems a steady, more than steady player, very composed on the ball, etc. But I've not been overawed by what I've seen yet. I've not been as blown away, if you will, as what I was kind of hoping to be with Juranovic, such as his pedigree. So it's an interesting one, that. I think Ralston's in with a shout of certainly competing for that jersey between now and the end of the season with Juranovic. I think it's a tight battle between there. More comments. We're obviously looking ahead to the Ross County game. Monty's idea is to put Juranovic right midfield with Ralston behind him at right back. I'm not saying that wouldn't work. Alan saying Maeda and Kyogo could be interchangeable. Yeah, and do you think, I know we spoke briefly about this on Saturday, but do you think with this idea of bringing in Maeda, you know that Giakoumakis was likely to be an Ange identified signing as well? I've got a feeling he was anyway. Don't know why, but I do. Maybe the Greek connection. Maybe that's what I'm subliminally, joining the dots with. I don't know. But you would like to think that Maeda and Kyogo are there, the J-League's top scorer, and, the poster boy currently of Celtic, Kyogo, and obviously him and Jota kind of sharing that right now. You would like to think there'd be a way you can have both Kyogo and Maeda in. Kyogo may well turn around and go, I've never really been a number 9, to be fair. It's not really my position. So what about him being a wee buzz bombing around Maeda? Interchangeable. You'd like to think they've got the intelligence to do that. If it means 2 up top, you'd like to think Celtic have got the bravery to do that. I don't want to see us just play one formation every single week. I know we hear about Angelo being able to play one way, but I would always argue with that. If you become the opposition manager, that becomes something that you are able to forecast, something you're able to prepare for in depth and at length, because you obviously know how they're going to set up. So you would like to think there's, I'll go back to the phrase I like to use, there's many ways to skin a cat. I would like to think, with the new additions coming in, you might see a couple of tweaks to the tactics and information that perhaps Ange has been unable to implement so far. Whilst I know it's going to be all about possession football still, no matter the formation. And we know that it's going to be about, high pressing, keep the ball as much as possible. If we've got the ball, they can't score and all that, which is great. It would also be nice to see wee tweaks to the formation. That'd be class. Scott comes in with a great question. That's when Jota back. And I mean, he's probably only been out for 7 or 8 days, and yet it feels like a month already we've been without him. Such is the need for guys like him. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure when he's back, I'll be honest. My sources, I don't have any sources, so I've got absolutely no idea, Scott, unfortunately, mate. Right. Let's have an open debate for the last few minutes. I know we're pushing an hour, but guess what? I don't care how long we're on for. Makes no odds. It's great being in control, man. Love this. Just stay on to whenever we want. No, we will try and keep it at a reasonable length, obviously, because it'll just do folks nutting if they're trying to catch up and they're like, mate, looking at my phone, that's like half my shift, mate. I'm going to need to be listening to the Boyce'S bus, and that's not going to happen. Alan Robertson's asking, when's Julian back? Again, that seems a strange situation. I'm not entirely sure, mate. Again, with that, the longer this goes on, the worse the injury you feel. Alan, you know it. I am the driver. Joe P comes in. I've only just noticed you were on. I'll have to watch from the start. Typical, mate. And I'm enjoying your shows, though, Boyce. Yes, mate. Good to have you with us, Joe P. Better late than never, my man. Not really seeing Josip's crossing ability come into effect up until this point. The more he plays on the right and Giakoumakis forcing his way into the side could be a perfect match. Well, I think at times there's been an overemphasis when I know we were talking earlier about being more clinical in front of goal, right? I feel at times that Celtic's style of attack, though, there's been too much emphasis on getting the ball out wide and then these floaty balls going in and without a Giakoumakis type there, they're kind of redundant sort of crosses. So yeah, absolutely. If we're going to be playing that sort of football and and Juranovic has the sort of delivery we're going to expect from a Croatian seasoned international, then you would like to think that Giakoumakis is someone that could thrive from that. And it will be interesting to see how he's utilised once he comes back. I, for one, I'm all for, the Eredivisie's top scorer playing with the J-League's top scorer, playing with, Japan's golden boy Kyogo as well. It sounds like, to me, quite healthy competition on paper. Let's get them all in. Let's get to January. I wish it was January tomorrow. There's a big debate from me, says Alan Robertson. We touched on this at the start of the show, Alan. And you're right, it is a big debate. Scales or Taylor. For me, if it was a straight shootout, who do I start at Ross County? I would start Liam Scales. Honestly, I would. I think he has come on. Whenever he's came on, he's shown enough to me, and Taylor's not shown enough to me that he warrants to be played through default. I think it should be a straight shootout between the two. And right now, whilst Taylor's performance on Sunday left a lot to be desired, didn't particularly inspire, that should then lead it to over to you, Scales. Now it's your turn. I think he's got a calmer head on his shoulders than his age sort of belies. So no, I'd be all for Liam Scales on that one for me, Alan. Martin, I recommend Ange his squad together. You jibbers see the wee tweets we're hoping for. You jibbers. I'm not quite sure what that means, but aye. I mean, once he's got his squad fully together, and hopefully Celtic again, I'll go back to back him in January like they've got to, and back him with the respect that I think he deserves now, considering the job he's done with a haphazard window where I think players have been signed on his behalf, if I'm completely honest. And he's obviously had to cram in players at the last minute, such as Cameron Carter-Vickers arriving 2 minutes before the clock strike 12. Things like that wasn't ideal, especially with juggling it with European qualifiers, for example. You would like to think come January, learn from those mistakes and we go, right, Ange, the fact you've kept us within touching distance, you've done, remarkable things so far with what's there. You're going to get the respect that you deserve in return from us. And if you identify players, we're going to back you. Let's fucking hope so, eh? Definitely. Bruce has made a great shout, apparently. Let's have a look. Scales on Wednesday, Taylor for the final, experience and consistency needed for the final. Argument. I think it's hard to argue with that on paper, but for me, Scales plays well on Wednesday. If you did start him, if you did start Scales on Wednesday and he played well, I would keep him in the team. And I think I don't get the vibe that Ange is his favourites as such. So, we've seen a lot of that last season. So, yeah, I would be all for him. I do get that argument though, Bruce. No, fair enough. I do get where you're coming from with that. Contact comes in. This is going to be one of these talking points now that heats up once the transfer window opens in January, because fans are going to start getting squeaky bum time, aren't they, over CCV and Jota? Even though my understanding, as if I'm standing outside with a Sky Sports microphone, you know what I mean? But my understanding is we've got first option on them both. So if we've got first option, then it'll be down to whether Celtic want to take that up at the end of the season. So really, because we've got the first option clause in there should be no need to panic over either Jota or Cameron Carter-Vickers. All our focus should be on is between now and then ensuring they're having the best possible time and selling the club to them over the next 6 months or 5 months to make it a no-brainer come the end of the season when you submit the money to their parent club that is required to activate them to be allowed to speak to us, that both players cannot wait to sign in the dotted line. That's where I would say the priority is on that. But yeah, so far, been very impressed with them. Glasgow Rebel, good evening, Mr. Boyce. Good evening to you, mate. Glad you've joined us. Brilliant to have you with us. How much would you be willing to pay for Cameron Carter-Vickers? This is again, these are going to be conversations again. I think they'll get more and more spicy as the season wears on, because obviously we'll be getting to that end of the season sort of cut off time and we need to make a decision. And I think it's interesting with Cameron Carter-Vickers. I think some of us thought when he first signed that his contract was up at Spurs at the end of this year. Then we heard it was 6 million, Then there was reports saying it was maybe going to be potentially 10. Now, that sounds a lot, but one thing I'll say is 6 million is small chump change in modern football. And it only sounds a lot because Celtic have never progressed with the times in terms of their expenditure, despite generating a hell of a lot more money in revenue in some of those years than a lot of other clubs. And if we'd actually progressed with the times, I'm not saying 25, 30 million pound players here, by the way, but Edward at 9 million broke Chris Sutton's record 19 years later. That should never be the case, that it's 19 years between transfer records, unless the one for 19 years ago was of such an amount that, was, causing shockwaves, but it was 6 million, Chris Sutton. To take 19 years to beat that is mad. I'd be quite happy to pay between 6 to 10 for Cameron Carter-Vickers. He's coming straight out the oven. He knows exactly what it takes. He's settled in well. The alternative is, what do we pay? The alternative is, what do we pay if 2 seconds, guys. Sorry about that. So the alternative is basically we bring in someone else come next summer. We bring in someone else next summer, and what's the price fee? The price range going to be then? We've seen Carl Starfelt come in, Swedish international, 26 years old, good age. He took a wee bit of time to get used to this. Imagine having Cameron Carter-Vickers in your starting lineup for, say, it was a European qualifier, depending on where we finish this season, or say the first few games of the season. You're not worrying about, if it's an away match at a Tynecastle or anything like that early on in the season, because Carter-Vickers is seasoned in the SPFL by then. He's ready made to go. 6 to 10 million. If we're about to generate 40, say if we won the league from the Champions League, I don't think it's a huge investment in someone that's going to be a first team pick. I think we need to move with the times. In comes Joseph Agnew again. Celtic players need to move a lot more of the ball every time Ralston or whoever takes throw-ins, as Ralston has been booked for wasting time to make opposition hard to defend. You would like to think that wouldn't be a tweak that's going to be difficult to implement, Joseph, such as the mobility of the Celtic team, the way we try and play football. You would like to think there was a lot of options there. And yeah, you're right. There shouldn't be players getting booked for time waste. And it's certainly not what I think anyone in the Celtic side is trying to achieve. Scott House says the newspapers are on $1 million to Cameron Carter-Vickers every week. Perhaps it does seem to have fluctuated a fair amount, Scott, doesn't it? And then we need to get real, though. What does everyone want from Celtic right now? And if you want us to be competing at the top table, then I'm sorry, but you have to then accept that players on that pitch, you cannot just count on guys coming in from another continent that are at the same prices we were paying 20 years ago for players. It's not fair. You have to also add a wee bit of, ready to go stock that's going to add. And do you know what? Cameron Carter-Vickers is at an age as well. Whereas even if we did pay over 6 million, 6 to 10 million, say he has a blinding spell, another great season, maybe another great season, 2-3 years at Celtic, playing at the top level of Europe. Who's to say we don't sell him for 15, 20? Just because when you buy a player for 6 to 10 million pounds, that doesn't mean full stop. That's like money out. That can also be then money that's then brought back in at a later date. Look no further than Edward. £9 million. We sold him with only a year left, and he was out of sorts, out of form, and his head was gone. He checked out, yada yada. Still managed to bring in 18 million. Now I know PSG got quite a large percentage of that, but we still actually made profit on it, and we had 4 years to remember him by, where there was a hell of a lot of trophies, albeit the last season not going the way we wanted. There's a comment coming in from Kingdom, and he's saying 8 million for CCV by the time this podcast is done. It's going up by the minute. Get CCV on the bus. On that note, I think we will call it a night. It's been an hour and 10 minutes. I've really enjoyed it. I hope everyone's now beginning to get the vibe of what the Monday Club is meant to be all about. It is an open platform. I'm going to try and involve as many of the comments as possible. We may even run over time sometimes, because, not necessarily because I like the sound of my own voice, because I think it's a bit too bassy. It's a bit too blunt at times. It sounds too dry. But what I will say is, It's to try and get through as many of the comments as possible and make it fair game for everyone. So again, thanks to everyone who's been involved. This has been the second Monday Club. We enter week 2 of the Boyce'S Bus. Who'd have thought it already? The solo project is kicking off. Once again, I'll say a big thanks to sponsors, Giftwell, for their drinks page. And I'll quickly show you as well. They've got a sports page as well, where you can see vintage football kits. Look at that Milan number. Absolute classic. Non-league football shirts and all that as well. So a huge thanks to them for sponsoring the show. If anyone else is looking to get involved with sponsorship of that, just give us a shout. I'm quite easy to negotiate with. Don't worry about that. Thanks again to everyone who's watched. Have a brilliant evening, and we'll see you Wednesday night for some Championship Manager 2001-2002 if you're interested. Cheers again. See you all later.